I'm Karthik. So I graduated from Manipal in 2012 with a degree in computer science. And then I went on to Carnegie Mellon to do my master's in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that was 2 years, 2012 to 2014. So as part of my thesis project, I started working on, kind of figuring out how do you match a job description with a candidate resume. And that was the beginning of the company I founded, which is Springroll. What Springroll basically does, it is the intersection of HR tech with blockchain. So what we do is take in your entire resume, verify experience, education on the blockchain, and then all your endorsements on different skills have a reputation based algorithm for that. So all of this combined becomes a much better resume which you can use for jobs, bank loans and whatnot. So we are set up as an entity in the US, as a C Corp in Delaware in the US, and then there is an Indian subsidiary of it, which is a private limited entity. So the US entity owns the Indian entity, and the reason why we chose a private limited and not a partnership or something else is private limited generally gives gives the investors much more control in terms of shares and whatnot, and that's like the typical type of entity. If you want to go for a venture round or angel round or whatnot, that is what they will prefer. So even though a private entity, private limited entity takes more money and more time compared to other types, it is still better for long term, because say tomorrow you want to go for a Series A round, everyone will want to prefer a private limited entity, and then you don't want to redo this entire work and end up spending actually more than just doing it in the first place. Yeah, so we had, we used this law firm known as E. Lagan. I started working with them in 2013, and been with them since then. They're a firm based out of Bangalore. They do both accounting, finance, and legal, and we've worked with them for almost 5 years. They've done all our entities, and I think it's one of the best ways, like especially if you are not a lawyer or not from the finance background, you want to make sure that you are working with a firm who has done this over and over again, who has all the expertise you need. So one of the reasons why we should work with a law firm or a accounting firm is, like, tomorrow say you get into a contract with one of the large companies, maybe it's your client, and then they put in these clauses which says you only get paid 90 days after the invoice has raised, right? And then you're like, yeah, to me, like, it was like, okay, this must be normal, and how do I, like, there's no way I can negotiate with this large client, because they're obviously going to be my potential client, right? So then you have this law firm, and then they say, no, this is definitely not normal, and you should push back on it, and then actually helps you with cash flow and whatnot. So it's very important to have a law firm, and this is just one example. Like, even when you're hiring people, you want to make sure that whatever the offer letter has every single thing covered. So what if the person does not join, have a probation period? Like, we've had cases where person says, yes, I'm joining in 2 weeks, and the person does not turn up, right? So, and then the person just takes away your laptop, and there's nothing you can do. Like, so at least you want to make sure that all your devices and whatnot are covered in the offer letter, and that only a law firm can do it. So in case something wrong happens, you have some kind of legal action you can take. Yeah, so the law firm, generally helps you with all the privacy policy, terms and conditions, all your offer letter agreements, all your contracts with, potential clients, even with your investors as well. So in the last 2 years, GST has been this new thing, and to me, obviously it makes sense, but from a finance accounting perspective, does not really, it's very hard for me to understand. And you have to make sure that you have this IGST and SGST and all of these things, and how is your invoice formatted, and all of those small things. And we have a lot of export revenue, like we have a lot of customers in the US who pay us every month, so that is a complete new thing, because it all comes under export revenue. So here, in the first few months, we are like, okay, it makes sense, we'll figure out ourselves and whatnot. But then we realized we had to get this refund, and if we had not done that properly, like not gotten a GST number, not have that format, the refund was actually ended up being delayed by like 6 weeks or something. But if you work with a CA, which we did even for this GST process, you want to make sure that every single thing from day one is all compliant, because what has happened is every month you have to file these 3 forms, which only a CA can do. Unfortunately, technology is not yet there. So you want to make sure that you have a good accounting firm who has taken care of all of these processes, so you do not have any pitfalls in the future. Yeah, so we do not have any patents as of now, but we are in the process of working with a law firm, and we writing all of this documentation, what we have done in the last 4 years, and then giving it to them so they can kind of formulate and figure out, okay, what can be patented, what cannot be. And in my first 2 years I was like, all of these things should not really matter, but then I've realized that just because blockchain and artificial intelligence just such a new space, like tomorrow 5 years down the line you end up being this so valuable company, and then you realize, okay, there's someone else has a IP on what you actually implemented just because they were first, right? When I was going to Google Scholar, I think 3 months ago, and I saw there were already some proposals put up, and then I went to my lawyers and reached out to them, and they're like, yeah, this is just a proposal, like there are so many things which you're doing which are not covered there, and you should talk about them and whatnot. So I think talking to a lawyer, like they know this process in and out. They probably have done it 1,000 times, so they know, okay, this is a separate patent, this is a separate patent, and this is how we should formulate it, this is how we should draw the charts and the flow charts and whatnot. So it's very important you talk to an expert. Like it's like anything, if you are programming, you want to talk to a developer and not do it yourself, right? So the same thing here, why not just talk to the expert and let them do their job, right? So you give them whatever documentation they need, and then they can go from there and figure out the process. Yeah, so generally, it's best when you have some real IP that you first document it. Then you talk to an attorney to figure out what can be disclosed when you're talking to a potential client, right? If you're licensing your technology, you want to make sure that either it's in a patent pending process, or you're only disclosing a little bit and not the entire thing, because otherwise there is this law which says once it's disclosed on the website or somewhere, and that is automatically counted as being in the public domain, right? So you want to make sure that whatever either you're licensing or you're selling a product, or in some form, or you're consulting, you want to make sure it's completely checked with your lawyers to make sure whatever piece of information is going outside of your company, like you don't have to do it every time it goes out, but you want to make sure there's a framework for it and what should not be sent.